there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to one of my videos. I wanted to get a video across this week, but somehow it wasn't meant to be because my video and audio weren't actually in sync. So I thought that probably wasn't the right time for that topic, and not everything was being said. So when I was just going with the flow of my life, like always, I got this amazing burst of this knowing what I need to talk about in this video. So the next one, which will be again another sequence of the wisdom of the stars, we'll speak about the star origin, will be the next one. So do take a look out for that if you're interested. But this one will be about the nature of the reunion again, but it will be something different. It's something that I'm noticing on my path, not just what's happening in the general, but what I'm experiencing myself with the connections and with the relationship that I'm encountering in this path, and how we're serving one another, you know, through more of unveiling of that deep core intimacy, which is something I've talked a lot about in my videos. And this is something that just follows me around lately, because all the spirit messages coming through are about the king and the queen, and even every movie I watch. So recently I was guided to watch a video called Estera, One Night with the King, and it spoke about something that, you know, it's just that usual archetype that's happening, you know, that we can observe in these movies that speak about the divine feminine and masculine, and what is not that, and what was wounded, and what is not really walking in our own true divinity. So this is something I want to talk about so much, about the true nature of who we are as kings and queens, and our I am presence, which is royal, and it is perfectly divine already. You know, it's not something to strive towards, it's just something to embody more and more. So even yesterday I was guided to post another stone oracle message, and I already had one there, you know, waiting, and I thought, no, this isn't the right one. So I was actually picking one, and it was the king stone by the king archetype. And when I was writing that up, I noticed, oh, this is the number 27, which is always a number that follows me around everywhere, and it is my own divine reunion number. And this is something I really so passionately and so eagerly want to talk about. And whenever I have a specific motive, that's when it's getting even more interesting to me. So what I've noticed on my path, and what this movie confirmed, and I recommend you watch it because it's a really beautiful movie, and it just shows, you know, that beauty and that freedom of the feminine when she's totally surrendered to her goddess nature. She's just playful and dancing and always living like that in that childlike awe and inspiration and magic. And the king, how he's portrayed, is, you know, always influenced by others, not really being in his true masculine. And when he thinks he's in the masculine, he's like has to go to war and has to fight and all of that. And at the end, you have the coming together. You know, when the king needs to fully trust the goddess, the queen, and how they merge together. Because in the movie, they actually know how the queen, she was referenced back then, she wasn't even allowed to approach the king if he didn't summon her. So that was quite funny to observe. It's like, wow, wait a minute, they're sharing the divine union and she can't even come to him? Only in the royal bedchambers, which was really interesting. So in one of my most recent conversations and unveilings, I really noticed something that I noticed happening a lot between, this is like a game playing out between the man and the woman, and this has been happening in this plane of existence for eons and eons of time. And I feel it's something really important, because even the message of what is a true divine masculine came across, and it keeps coming up. You know, somebody really beautifully explained that in writing this week on Facebook. And it's just something that is elusive to so many of people, and they don't even know why. And they try hard, and the men want to try hard, and they want to prove themselves, or they want to prove to the women who they are. And even when I was approached by lots of men, they always somehow needed to prove themselves. You know, I'm this and that. And, you know, for me to kind of value them, or that they could feel special instead of just being who they already were. And this interests me because this applies to the wounded aspect. There's so much wounds there, but in truth, we're not wounded. Our spirit is not wounded. We are not these wounds. It's actually an illusion of playing the game of, oh, I'm wounded. But it's not, because yesterday I was once again reading about the I am teachings, and, you know, from Saint Germain, because I'm guided to a lot of master frequency coming towards me again, reuniting with it, because it's how I started my path, you know, at the beginning. And I just felt this is all that we are. It's the I am. All else is just, you know, the first individualization is our own unique I am presence. So it was beautifully explained that everything that we say, oh, I'm not this, I'm not that, or even in, you know, I am this and that, but I'm not that and that, you know, kind of causing this for us to not really channel through the pure source potential, the living life essence that we are. So in all my interactions with men, particularly, you know, because it is about the feminine and masculine, not just in the archetype and the energy, but also in the gender, the roles that we play, because it's through gender we actually heal. A lot of people don't yet have the full understanding of the gender, and even some of the new agers say, oh, it's, you know, we're androgynous. Yes, we are in truth, but when we really embrace gender and the role that it's playing for the healing, for the remembrance of who we truly are, then we can follow the next step, because we can't skip those steps and initiations, beloved ones. We just can't do that. So we need to embrace the role that the gender plays. And in the movie, it was so beautiful when they were actually summoning up the women who were supposed to be, one of them was supposed to be chosen for the new queen, right? And they were putting all this makeup on them and luscious scents and ointments and everything. And she was the one who was actually chosen because the king fell in love with her. She said to one of the royal, you know, the servants who were in charge of them and the preparations, and she said, well, what are they truly teaching us here? And she said to him something so beautiful. She said, aren't we supposed to be teaching about a thought well thought, a word well spoken, and a deed well done? Because she was reading about that in the ancient scriptures and the books, because she was able to read. And you know, the queen is portrayed as just this unrevelant aspect who's just there if the king summons her. That's it. She had this role that was very determined. Oftentimes she was just placed as this figurine, while the queen was, the king was actually, you know, very much associated with that ego-driven, you know, masculinity and the drive to conquer and all of that. So a lot of that, it's not just in those Bible stories or other books, you know, in ancient scriptures, but it's actually been a story that's been kind of flowing on this earth for so long, and it's just playing in these different aspects of us that we embody within our soul, you know, these aspects we create, these aspects of embodiment. So I was looking at that, I was thinking, but when is this ever going to end? When are we really going to embrace the role of gender and what they truly represent, and how unity and oneness of this is? And if you're interested in what I was writing about it, go check in my Facebook wall when I was posting the stones. I beautifully wrote that in the one about the king, and what the true reunion is actually about. And there is no divine reunion when there's still even one tiny thread of that. Because in the movie, when she actually came to him unsummoned, and she was actually committing a crime, how it was, you know, referenced back then, she just did it to save her people, because she had something to tell. And she had to put everything to risk, and that was the absolute power of the divine feminine. And if you look at all the ancient stories, they all portray a woman as this strong aspect, while the kings were often an ego, and the male dominant, manipulated masculine, you know, that false masculine, not the true divine masculine energy. And how they were actually a lot of times saving, you know, others, and just showing true courage and true wisdom and true power, what it is really about. And it is always about vulnerability, complete openness, complete trust and surrender. So at the end, he does kind of, you know, go for it, and he does open up to that, what she has to say, what the feminine has to say. And like I say, in my interactions, I oftentimes encounter the vulnerability that there still is in men, because the masculine has been wounded so much. But at the same time, because we're one, because of the polar opposite, so has been the divine feminine. But because divine feminine energy is so much rising in frequency on this planet, and it's kind of like moving ahead, so is therefore the divine masculine, again, because of the polarity principles, opposite. So what's happening now is that only in the coming together of the two, we can really once again establish that true divine intimacy, that source intimacy. And the goddess, you know, the kind of aspect that I'm showing to you guys when you're free. You live as a carefree, not carefree meaning like without any responsibility and devotion, but carefree in a way that you don't have that weight around you. You just live freely and joyfully, and you play in nature, you climb those trees and those rocks, and you just show that true openness to nature, because the divine feminine is the nature aspect. And the masculine truly needs to open up to that and be allowed to be guided by the goddess, not to be his teacher or vice versa, because in divine reunion, no one is meant to teach each other anything. They're meant to share and interact through true source intimacy with each other. So the thing here, the key lying here is that the masculine totally surrenders to the goddess, and so they can really become one. And that means like literally falling on your knees without those projections, what she thinks of you, how she will value, you know, not just proving to her, but a lot of men do that. Prove to the woman who they are, and it just ends up being worse because they're not really being true to themselves. A lot of times there's this harsh energy coming, you know, that they need to be perfect, they need to be very providing and all this, you know, masculine, and the way they exercise, the way they do everything is just nonsense, because it's not who we truly are as beings of source. We're natural. We're so simple, and simplicity is who we truly are. So when these two come together, it can only happen when they totally surrender and fall at each other's feet once again. And when there could be true embracing of that non-woundedness, which again, like I said, there's nothing left but only love. So sometimes I'm noticing there's these disharmonies or sometimes frictions, you know, when you talk to somebody in communication, and somebody becomes more vulnerable, or they say to you, oh, I think you're doing this, I think you're projecting this, or why do you think of this me, why are you hostile, why are you defensive, why are you this? And the moment we do that, again, we're playing the old game. Can't you see? We're kind of, because we feel wounded, we place these barriers and these bounds and, you know, just these walls we build. And we keep building them and building. Even if it's just a tiny bit, it's enough. Because in true reunion, there could be nothing left but source. Nothing left but silence, that sacred sanctuary, and that beauty of true surrender, complete openness, like I said, when you just follow each other's hearts. And this doesn't just mean in intimate relationships where two of them are partners or sharing, you know, the space of source, intimate love between two opposing genders, of course, you know, with the nature of energy of the twin soul, the opposing polarity principle, but also in friendships and in brotherhood, sisterhood, which is happening on the planet right now, because all too times we're too fragile in the wrong kind of sense. But being fragile should be replaced by that being vulnerable, which means vulnerability actually means complete openness. To be vulnerable does not mean to be a sissy or, you know, to not be strong enough and not masculine enough, because you truly are strong when you can surrender to any kind of circumstance that comes your way. So when the relationship comes to this point where there might be a bit of friction, and somebody thinks that somebody else thinks badly of them, or what they're going to think of them, or what they said between those words, what we often do, it doesn't matter, you know, if it's internet communication, if it's verbal communication, if it's telepathic communication, either, what is the energy that we're sending to each other? This is what we're supposed to focus. You know, sometimes, you know, people say to me, oh, I need to again read what you said, or I need to do this or that, but the truth will never be found in mere words. Perhaps this is what you think when you feel that, oh, being attacked or something, but it's time to shift the energy and focus to our true source self. And instead of that, just have that inner resolve without, you know, feeling defensive and acting defensive, but just stepping into our power by showing that there's no boundaries, because that's what true power is, having no boundaries. And like I said, the only shield, there is no shield, just divine love. And when you can be in that space of awareness, your love will become detached. And let me tell you this, to have a neutral sense of detached source love is not the same as be cold or have that boundary and say, I'm neutral, I'm detached, but you're really just being defensive and you have a wall around you. This is not the same thing. And you will feel it, because you can be compassionate and loving at the same time when you can be very detached, and when you know that somebody's projecting it towards you, it's their thing to resolve, it's not yours. But usually the things that unfold energetically between the two when they have either a conversation or whatever kind of sharing they have in the partnership, whatever kind of partnership it is, it usually affects both. It's usually a production, a co-creation of both. So both kind of need to take a look, but not by saying, oh, you need to look at this. Oh, you need to see this when you're doing this. Is egoic. Each of them needs to come into their own inner resolve, and they can share what they've realized, what they've been guided to see, what they have realized. And at the end, like I said, there's so much veils enfolded. At the end, there's nothing but love, and there's nothing but fragile. Being fragile turns into being vulnerable. That means completely open, and there's nothing but complete surrender. And there is no other way, because there's so much teaching already in these movies that portray this archetype, you know, and the divine feminine has been so scorned. But you know what happened as a consequence to that, when men were doing this to women and they were enslaving them and they were burning them as witches and all of that, they didn't know that that divine feminine is a part of their divine masculine. So when they were hurting them, they were hurting themselves. And because of that split in this duality consciousness, there's a mirror. Everything is a mirror. And because this was done to women for so long, now men are so wounded as well. And we need to rediscover that role of the gender and become true unified kings and queens. And maybe that's not an easy process for some people, because they still have that shield where, you know, they're being offensive. But sometimes, you know, the things we say to others, we say out of love, and we don't always have to feel attacked or hurt or wounded. We don't need to prove ourselves, you know, oh, you need to see who I am, or, you know, one day, you know, everybody will get how powerful I am, or how, you know, big I am. And just we don't need that, because we already are, and we have value just by being divine, just with the words I am. We already are. And on my journey, I've kind of seen how I've served literally through that opening a lot of men that came my way. Oftentimes, you know, there's a lot of projections, because men like to think that you're their beloved just by being, you know, some kind of energy exchange is happening, and it feels good. But it's always the good part is the part that gets you together, to come together anyway, to co-create. But then sometimes we say, oh, that was the bad part, which, ooh, you know, you notice your hurts and the woundedness, which again, like I said, is just an illusion. We're not truly wounded in spirit. And when we are in that spirit essence, nothing can hurt us but ourselves, you know, when we go against ourselves and our divinity. So I've noticed this, and each time it was the same. And so many men in my life have fallen for the arrows of my words, which were always very neutral. You have to see one video about the Sagittarius nature, because I am Sagittarius rising, and this woman perfectly described is that the Sagittarian nature is to shoot those arrows, but they're always neutral, they're always truthful, they're just very blunt, and sometimes people take them, ow, you know, ouch. But in fact, they mean no harm, they're actually very well intended. And this is something that perfectly describes me, because I've been always truthful. And sometimes I just have to say to people, it's not me being rude, it's just me being truthful. I need to say this. I can't have a conversation that, you know, leads me to not being authentic, or say certain things I'm feeling when somebody's not really being in their own true divine potential, when they're kind of hiding, or, you know, all of that, not being fully self-expressive through pure clarity, through crystalline core nature that we are, so pure and loving. So a lot of times I've noticed this defensiveness or projections, and like I've said, too many have fallen for the arrows of my words instead of truly feeling the heart, the energy, the interaction that can really be felt. So we can only know each other when we drop all defenses, and like I said, when we lie perfectly naked in front of each other, completely, you know, there's no secrets there. Sometimes people say to me, oh, is there something you meant behind your words, or is there some sort of, you're trying to tell me a message between the fine lines, is there any fine print? And I always say, no, I don't function that way. It's not who I am. I don't have any fine print. I don't have secrets. I'm completely open, and this is what the nature of the goddess is. Like in the movie, this part of the servants, he asked her, he said, well, where are you from? Where do you belong? And she said, I'm of the wind. I'm as free, you know, as the wind. And she started to dance, and this is who we are. And she beautifully expressed this, and the nature of the creation that divine feminine shows, and the divine masculine so beautifully fits together with that, because they're one. And I just really felt guided to talk about that, because there won't be no golden age and no true union, or everybody seeking for their twin flames. There cannot be that without that true intimacy. And when we truly have no more mind restrictions, because sometimes the mind likes to make up its own stories and it projects these fears. And sometimes people say, I'm strong, I'm this, I'm that, but they don't embody it the same way. It's not enough to just know it. We need to embody it. You need to act like this. For example, you feel really pushed by something, and it's just opening a new level of intimacy for you. And you say, oh, I'm strong, but you don't act that way. Well, then this is not spiritually, it's not in spiritual integrity. We need to follow on all levels and become, like I said, the true kings and queens. And to rule together through the heart, that's the whole principle. To rule, but through the heart, which is just be those compassionate observers and co-creators. So like I said, in my life, I've seen how I was serving a lot of those men who were really either stuck in the mind, again, this is just an illusion, but they were playing along with the idea of being stuck, okay? Let me just say it like that. And it just, not everybody had the channel open enough to receive so much love, because true love can be intense for a lot of people. They cannot yet embrace the nature of the goddess, the touch of the goddess. It's just too intense for them, and they just play the hide and seek game, So I've often noticed this, how you see it when you feel them. At one point they really open up, and then it just closes up again, and the energy is gone, there's no more flow, and you just think, oh, such a shame. And yesterday before going to bed, I just was speaking to my higher self, and I said, why? But what is this happening still for eons and eons of time? Because I've always seen the divine potential in everybody, but it doesn't mean anything, what I feel or what I say to people. I can say them even that they were the worst or the best or whatever, but it matters not what I say. The only thing is matters what we feel and embody through our own divine remembrance and our own body vessels. So it really does not matter, and I'm really seeing and feeling that only this playing along the game of being the victim and the woundedness, the inner wounded child as well, this is what's causing us to tick and react and to be defensive instead of just loving and accepting and always open. I'm not saying that, never happens for me, but I'm saying I always see the patterns. And whenever we have those frictions, maybe with somebody, that just means that a new level of opening is there presented for you as an opportunity, and either you make it about that tick and you just, say, oh, goodbye, I don't want to talk to you. Oh, sometimes we do that. We say, we read the words, we don't focus on the energy, and we just hear what we want to see at that time when the ego feels wounded. But why not rather just feel and breathe it through until it becomes more clear and become responsive instead of reactive? And when you become more responsive, you become more responsible, okay? So, like I said, we can always open the channels to more receptiveness, and that we embrace our own inner goddess and the God, and we play that. And we don't just play roles of these children who have forgotten who they are, but we play the adult roles of who we really are. So it's time. I think it's really time. And all those of you who still feel like when you interact with somebody and you kind of go the way that, you want them to see who you are, and you have these, I want to show them I'm this, I'm funny, I'm good. Why don't you just allow the nature of who you are speak through you in all the words, all the actions, all that you do? Because so many times I've heard so much, but there was no embodiment. The energy didn't follow through. So this is the part that we need to focus on. Not how somebody will see you, but how well you will be that energy of what the woman in the movie said. A thought well thought, a word well spoken, and a deed well done. And this is our to focus on. It's just for us. And then we could project it and reverberate it out to the whole world, because our purpose is to radiate. Not just to talk, but to radiate with the whole being. And this is done when we truly embody. So, all you gods out there, all you forgotten kings and queens, remember who you are, walk together in unison, love each other in all ways, and remember that each time there's just your higher self sending you an opportunity to expand even more into more vulnerability, more intimacy, more union. Okay guys, take care. I love you all so much. Bye-bye. Hey guys, I just wanted to show you this beautiful path here that I discovered. This is from my village to the next town. As you know by this water, you probably know it so well now. And the path is just so adorable. And even in the winter, although the sun is, pretty low, as you can see, the mountains cover it up a lot. But you can find some really good sunshine here on the side. And I just love it. And this is where I'm recording today. So I just wanted to show you. And as you know, I'm a river by now. Yeah.